All right, looks like we are broadcasting. Hold on, let me switch my video on.
I like the picture better.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. It is 5:35. The agenda's before us. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
A motion to approve the agenda.
Is there? Okay, it's been moved by Mark and seconded by Kathleen. Any discussion? Any changes, Shannon, to the agenda that we need to do?
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay.
Hey,
The ayes have it, and it is approved.
I'm just trying to see if you're listening.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the last two sets of meeting minutes. It's in your packet. If there's no changes or additions to the minutes, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
All right, it's been moved by Barney. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mark. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. The next item are presentations. Shannon, are the applicants going to be joining us? Okay.
Yes. I have. Hold on. I'm going to let Kim Tesoro in really quickly before we move on to this next item. She just joined. So we have three applicants. We have Nick Beery, Elise Polly, and Bill Whitmore. It looks like Elise and Bill have both logged into the meeting, but I don't see Nick yet, and he's first. So I would ask that we maybe start with Elise Polly. That's okay with the board, and see if Nick joins.
Let's go ahead and let in Elise, and if Nick joins at any time during the meeting, we'll just go ahead and come over to him.
Okay.
No, go on.
Hi, Elise.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you, and welcome. I'm glad to see you in a different capacity. That's not a late night joint planning board meeting. So I kind of want to lay out how we typically do this. It's really informal. One of the things that we have asked people in the past to do is just kind of give us a sense of who you are. Of course, we have your application. Kind of give us like a quick bio, and a pretty popular two questions that we ask is, what's your favorite thing to do around town, and what's one of your favorite local restaurants or attractions that you enjoy? So and then we'll turn it over to some of my fellow board members to ask some other questions. So you've got the floor.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Elise Polly, and really excited to talk with you all tonight.
Elise, if you could move your microphone maybe a little closer to your mouth.
Any better?
Yeah. Much better, thank you.
Okay. I was trying to use that. I thought it might be better, but so it goes. Technology these days is tricky. So my name is Elise Polly, and I was excited to see the opportunity come up to serve on the tourism board. I work in economic development and love the town of Hillsborough, and it just felt like a great opportunity. And so I really wanted to speak with you all and put my application in. So a quick bio about me. Let's see, I've lived in Hillsborough for about 3.5 years now. Before that, I lived down the street in Carborough for about 10 years. Hillsborough has very quickly become home for me. I have 2 young kids. I have a 6-year-old as of Wednesday and an 8-year-old. They both go over to Hillsborough Elementary School. We spend a lot of our free time. There's one of them. We spend a lot of our free time on Riverwalk and at Gold Park and at Iron Mount and all the other beautiful places that we have around town. I'll say moving from Carborough, which isn't that far, to Hillsborough, I knew in the beginning about Riverwalk, and I knew about Gold Park, I knew about a couple of things around town, but the more time I spend here, I feel like the more little treasures I find in the town of Hillsborough. And I really love the people of this town, and I just think it has so much to offer in terms of the natural beauty, in terms of, really great businesses, in terms of friendly people, in terms of arts and public art opportunities. I've been following along on Instagram NC Mosaics and seeing the Hillsborough mosaic come along, which just looks like it's going to be really beautiful. So there's a lot that I really love about Hillsborough. Let's see, so that's a little bit about me personally. In terms of professionally, I work at CREATE, which is an economic development center at UNC Chapel Hill. We're right next to the Keenan Flagler Business School. And CREATE is an economic development center that we launched just about a year and a half ago. And though the center launched about a year and a half ago, it actually brings together a couple of things that were already happening. In particular, we have NC Growth, which is an initiative that works to support small businesses and communities throughout the Carolinas in trying to create better economic outcomes. I'm just laughing at my Zoom bomb. And so NC Growth was started in 2012. Additionally, and we see NC Growth sort of as the outreach arm of CREATE. Additionally, there's the research arm, which is led by Marianne Feldman, and I've been working with Marianne for about 6 years on various economic development research projects. So we have a research arm as well, and outreach, and we also see ourselves as conveners, trying to bring people together from different backgrounds, experiences, understandings, perspectives, and trying to help people move the needle forward in terms of creating better economic outcomes and generating shared economic prosperity. We say at CREATE that we're trying to create data and knowledge to create policy and ultimately try to create prosperity. So given this work that I've been doing, it feels really relevant to the work that your board is doing and trying to figure out how to encourage economic development in the town of Hillsborough through tourism. So it seemed like a good fit, and I'm excited to learn more about the work that you all do, excited to get a better understanding of what it's like for the town of Hillsborough to try to think through how to create more good paying jobs, create more economic opportunity for our town. So excited to be with you all today. I'm trying to remember, Matt, your questions. I think, Riverwalk is one of my favorite places. I love walking along Riverwalk. We do a lot of bike runs with our kids, where the kids bike and we try our best to run. We've been spending a lot of time in Iron Mount, which is just a nice, lovely little loop that is really doable for my young kiddos. In terms of businesses, we just got pizza from Radius this weekend, and we frequent Radius all the time. Really like Ixtapa, plenty of other businesses as well. But I feel like probably Radius is the, well, then of course Weaver Street gets a lot of our money too. But aside from Weaver Street, which is an outlier, I would say that Radius is probably one of the businesses we frequent the most.
Pretty cool. Thank you for that. And I have to commiserate at going back and rereading your application. I feel like we could probably speak for hours about finance and HR in our day jobs. So I just noticed that again. So I'm going to turn it over to some of my colleagues here. If you have any questions for Elise that you'd like to ask, and we'll be relaxed. So if you have a question, just jump right on in.
I have a totally non-important question, but it's something I use to gauge people. Elise.
Yes.
In 10 seconds, what is your favorite movie ever and why?
Oh gosh. I have to admit that I love the experience of movies, but I will often see movies 2 or 3 times and not really remember. Let's see, I really enjoy the experience of watching movies, but in terms of saying my top, the trouble is these days, all the top movies. Okay.
This is all time.
All time? all the movies. I'm thinking about Trolls World Tour right now.
Which was actually a very fun film.
It was fun. It was unexpected, wasn't
It
it?
was unexpectedly fun. Yes. Good
I
answer.
think I've seen it like 3 times now, but yeah, I certainly, that was something that we chose because we have kids. I don't think I would have chosen to watch that otherwise, but my husband and I were really surprised at how good
Well,
it is.
You saved yourself with that answer. Good answer.
Apparently, Mark watches Trolls. I learned something new today.
No, Trolls World Tour.
It's
Trolls
really
World Tour.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great dancing, great. It's very psychedelic. There are crazy
Yes.
colors in this movie, and dancing, good music, really cool messaging about, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and people. They talk about trying to put together the
Yes.
guitar with all these strands of pop music and classical music, and how each of the different music types and each of the different trolls bring one piece to the guitar, which ultimately creates harmony, which is, you know, harmony. How wonderful is it to think about that?
See, great answer.
Okay.
So, Matt, good answer. Thank you.
And to and Elise, sorry, the tiles jumped around. Can you confirm what part of town you live in as well?
I'm in Cornwallis Hills, Southern Hillsborough.
Cool. Thank you. Any other questions from Kathleen or from Barney? All right. Can the applicants can they watch our meeting, or are they just, or is the waiting room just kind of like, is there a way?
The waiting room is like a hangout spot. They can watch the meeting live on YouTube.
Because I think it would be good to, at least if you went to our YouTube account and just kind of saw, you know, I'm not sure if you've seen any other of our previous meetings, but just kind of see how we interact and banter and come to decisions. So I think that would be really cool.
And maybe check out a TDA meeting or two.
A what meeting?
Tourism Development Authority, but he's being facetious. So, if there's nothing else for Elise, if you could, if we could, I don't want to say kick her out, but if you
We'll
could
put her back in the waiting room.
put her back into the waiting room, and then
Thank you, Elise.
Thank you, Elise. Appreciate your time.
All right. Good to meet you all. Have a good
Thanks,
meeting.
and then I think our next person's Bill Whitmore. Hello, Bill. Are you with us? You might need to unmute yourself.
There I am.
There you
There
go.
we go.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us today, Bill. We really appreciate it. Typically, how we kick this off is for applicants, if you could really just kind of introduce yourself, let us know, you know, who you are, a little short biography, and then, you know, what it is that you enjoy about Hillsborough, whether that's a restaurant, an attraction, or, you know, something along those lines, but really, and tie it back to tourism. So restaurants and attractions tend to be what people talk about the most, but the floor is yours.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Matt. Well, my name is Bill Whitmore, and I've been a resident of Hillsborough since, I guess it's 2009 now, previously in Chapel Hill, and previously a 30-year corporate career. Took me all over the world, all over the country anyway, and upstate New Yorker by origin. And when we lived in Chapel Hill, we've been here about 21 years or so in this area. When we lived in Chapel Hill for our kids, we discovered Hillsborough and thought of it as an adult town, and rather than a college student town, which appealed to us. The hometown that I'm from, Skaneateles, New York, is about 2,600 people. And the scale of Hillsborough appealed to me because of its familiarity. And I used to come up on Sunday mornings from Chapel Hill and have coffee at Cup of Joe, the old skinny little Cup of Joe, and Mike Troy was my ambassador of goodwill and introduced me to everybody. And I've taken that role over since his passing. And I'm a realtor here now, second career guy in town, musician, married to an artist, a wannabe artist myself. I live in the historic district, and I've been active, very active with the Hillsborough Arts Council for about 10, 11 years now on the board, and run a series of programs. People who've been around town might recognize me as the MC of the last Fridays when we could do it in person. And so I'm passionate about the arts and about what that component of what makes Hillsborough so special. And so I view the tourism board as kind of, I've served before on the Board of Adjustments. I kind of view it as an obligation for somebody who lives in town and loves this town and wants it to create and strike that cool balance of being a good, comfortable place to live and artistically rich, whether it's music or paint or whatever, sculpture. I know a lot of people, and I think probably the main thing that I have chosen to do in this last 10 or 12 years is to get engaged with the community. I had about 30 years of being a corporate slug, racing around in a three-piece suit and selling printing to banks, which was my business. And I realized how disconnected I was to the community, and I made a conscious effort to be connected. And that's probably what I do best, is to know a lot of people and not piss a lot of people off, but I guess occasionally I do some. But mostly I connect people and I get things done. Questions?
Great. Any questions for Bill? Mark, do you want to ask your same question as before?
Yes, I do. Bill, in
Yeah,
10,
Mark.
in 15 seconds or less, your favorite movie of all time and a quick why.
And what's the second part of that?
And a quick why.
Oh, gosh, Babe. I'm sorry, Babe. I just love the fact that a pig is so perfect.
That'll do, Pig. That'll do. Very good. Good answer. Thank you. That was perfect.
Good.
Any other questions for Bill?
See, Mike.
No. Well, if not, then Bill, Shannon will move you back into the waiting room.
And did you want to ask him about his favorite
Restaurant.
thing to do? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill, what's your favorite restaurant or attraction?
My favorite restaurant or attraction. Oh man. I would say Sparks Restaurant. No, I wouldn't say Sparks. I'd say Peter Luger's Steakhouse in Brooklyn. Family style. Best steaks
I
ever.
meant in Hillsborough.
Oh, okay. You said favorite, so
I did, but I meant in Hillsborough.
I like your thinking, Bill.
But I'm gonna try that out next time I'm in New York.
yeah, it's worth the stop. Don't park your car on the street. So favorite restaurant. Gosh, man, I just had a fabulous pizza the other night at the Village Diner. Performed for the Arts Council on stage there with our mobile stage, community stage. And Joel brought out a beautiful pizza and offered it comp to me. And I said, no, I pay for pizzas. That's it.
Well, I'm definitely going to have to try their pizza. That's for sure. Well, great. Well, thank you. If there are no other questions, Bill, Shannon will move you back into the waiting room. And if you would like to stick around and kind of check out what it is that we do and say and how we interact and whatnot, you can check out the town YouTube page.
Right.
And kind of stick around. We typically only meet for about an hour or so. So it's one of the more enjoyable advisory boards in terms of time commitment. But thank you for joining us today, Bill.
Yeah, thanks. I'm driving on my way home, so I will probably check out and not, unless you need me more, to be in the waiting room. If you want other questions come up, tell me now and I'll stay in the waiting room. Otherwise, I'm driving home.
I think we're good. And if you want to depart, you're good to do so.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody else.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
And did Nick join us? No.
Barry did.
He has not, but Kim Tesoro and Barry Hopp have joined us kind of during the.
Yes, good to see you, Barry.
By the way, Matt, I know you, and I saw Shannon, I know y'all laughed at my question, but if you've not gotten something out of both answers, I'm just telling you, it's a great.
I feel like I've gotten something out of both answers. I'm just upset you've never asked me what my favorite movie is.
I have banter for you, but I will not do that in public.
Well, I was laughing because I was surprised that you had seen Trolls World Tour.
In fact, do you know that because of COVID, Trolls World Tour is probably going to be one of the top box office movies of the year, because there really is no box office, and it came out right when COVID hit, and they put it on all the TVs, and it's interesting. Anyway, that's it. I'm sorry. I've seen every movie.
You're good. So now we've got some discussion here. So quick question for how everyone wants to do this. I mean, Shannon, I know it wasn't all that long ago we brought on Barney and Kathleen, but should we pick one person to move forward? Should we rank them? I mean, what would you?
That's item 6. So normally we go and do our action stuff and kind of think about it a little bit and then come back to it. But generally what happens is that we just have a board member can make a motion to nominate a particular candidate over another and say why, and then we need a second and then a vote.
Great, thank you. And yes, I should have looked at my agenda. So I just want y'all to be, so that's a good reminder for myself, but also with that information, just be thinking about when we come up to the 6th agenda item. Shannon, do you want to go ahead and
question real quick, Matt?
Sure.
And this is for you too, Shannon, probably more than Matt. If picking this person is a matter of personnel, why has it not been done in closed session? Why has it got to be so for everyone in the world to hear?
Because it's just a public decision of this board. And this board, there's only a couple of instances where you can go into closed session, and nominating someone for a board seat isn't one of them.
I just thought because they were a member of the under personnel. Just wondered. Okay.
Nope, you're good. You're good, Mark.
Okay.
Shannon, do you want to go ahead and lead us in the presentation on the next item?
Sure. So this board, at a previous meeting, we had talked about a contract addendum due to all of the various hours of operation changes and virtual programming and things that we weren't sure what was gonna take place in person, what wasn't. You know, obviously things change. This board meets monthly and things change so quickly that we can't even really keep up. So this board formed a subcommittee to kind of add some additional things to this contract addendum regarding when the partner organizations would open back up and what kind of tourism programming that they would offer. And so this is the kind of second draft out of that subcommittee. And so this board at this time can vote to recommend this addendum and have the contract partner sign it, or we can go back to the drawing board and make additional edits. It's really kind of what the board wants to do.
And can you go through there's the amendment, but then can you specifically just talk about the force majeure part?
Yeah, so that's the second item, which is
the second item. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the addendum for the FY21 contract. There was also a recommendation that had come up about coming up with force majeure language, which is basically what happens if there's some kind of catastrophe, natural disaster, whatever, that causes these organizations that we partner with to have to close or cease operations for any extended period of time, and kind of what the protocol will be for that moving forward. a good example of this would be kind of when the museum had to close for a few months because they had a roof leak and or collapse. It's kind of no fault of their own. They couldn't really open because their space wasn't available, but how they were going, having them come back to the board and explain how they were still going to offer high quality tourism programming when they had that going on is like an example. But so what this amendment is specifically speaks to FY21, the force majeure language we would probably add for the FY22 contracts.
Sorry, I didn't follow that exactly when I was looking at it. I was like, where's the where's that connection? Great. Any questions on the contract amendment document?
So in the end, it looks like this is the language is saying it's basically giving the contract partner the opportunity to figure out a way to do their programming within the confines of an executive order. Is that right?
Yes.
But is there any, I'm not seeing like an expectation or how it correlates. In other words, we generally are funding the activities that they're doing, and those activities cost X amount. So let's just take the dinosaur parade is funded for $4,500. And the dinosaur parade cannot happen. It has to be a virtual dinosaur parade. So the cost has changed significantly. And so I think, I'm just saying back to this conversation has been ongoing for several months, but I was thinking we were also going to address how, whether you would then use the $4,500 towards marketing or some other creative way of driving business towards, the tourists towards our businesses, or would it become a reduced payment to the contract partner based on what they actually used for the dinosaur parade?
Right. So I think the subcommittee and any of the committee members can jump in is kind of address this in item number 4, which is basically that during this quarterly report, the contract partner, the expectation is that they are going to explain what, if any, changes or modifications are made in the scope of work, and then also explain any budget changes.
Okay, but does that answer the question? Isn't this, I'm sorry, I don't want to be beleaguering, but wasn't the whole point of this that we didn't quite know how to address the fact that much of the programming hasn't run since March, and we don't know how to handle third quarter of 2020 in terms of payment?
No, I mean, I think that was all decided. I think now we're kind of into Q1 of the current fiscal year. And
right, I'm sorry, I missed both. Yes, I mean first quarter of a current fiscal year, the July to September.
Right, and so we'll hear those quarterly reports next month and see those budget amendments for that quarter.
That
makes sense?
Answering my question. So then you're saying that the contract partner will submit that I only spent $3,500 on the dinosaur parade, is what you're saying?
Yes.
And then we would decide each on every occasion, okay, then we will adjust your contract payment by X, or would we?
They could say, I only spent $3,500 on the dinosaur parade. We'd like to use the other $1,000 to run a spot on WRAL. Or we don't know what we're going to use it for and we'd like to give it back. But usually they'll probably try and find something to use it on.
Yes.
I think it's in our best interest to put that money to work. And Kim, I appreciate that question. That was part of a conversation we had in the subcommittee level. And what this does is allow for a case-by-case basis, because our contractors and other grant recipients are, they're all a bit different. And so we need to look at it from a case-by-case basis. And at times there's going to be ways to modify what they're able to offer. And other times, even if it's event-oriented, it still may take the same amount of staff time. So this allows for our board to listen them out and hear them out and see what sort of creativity can be made of a otherwise bad situation or compromised situation.
Okay, so I hear that, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing, but I do have a concern still that if we contract for someone to run the dinosaur parade and they can't run the dinosaur parade, but instead they can post pictures of dinosaurs and write a press release. So therefore we've done something, and that's how we spent the money, or that's how, we feel like the money, we used a lot of staff time. We used a lot of staff time to do that project. Well, that didn't necessarily do the end result that we are asking for, which is obviously to drive tourism towards Hillsborough. And so I don't know.
Well, if you follow it through 1 through 4, you'll see that it does address that concern, and I think that's definitely a concern we need to have in assessing their best efforts, the grant recipients' best efforts to fulfill their contract. And then at the end of the day, if it's determined that, yeah, no, it didn't quite really fit the bar as you're suggesting, then the board makes the decision. But it has to be written, I believe, in a way that allows for a case-by-case basis. There's got to be flexibility in how it's applied, but at the end of the day, there does have to be a rationale of, did that really work? Did that really?
I agree. I think what I would have liked to have seen is some limitation. If you're going to actually kind of detour widely from what was the contract had stipulated, then you probably need to come before the board before you detour and say, okay, this is what our thoughts are on how to make this work. That, I think, is what I would have thought we might have moved towards, rather than a behind after the fact, which we all know is going to be a lot more difficult to, remedy if it wasn't a good choice.
I think I see the point that everyone's trying to make, but I do think that one of the things that all of our contract partners participate in, and at least except for maybe the Arts Council, is some sort of local educational component. And that's also a big chunk of their programming. And for example, schools will not be going back locally until early January. So that is, if we're looking at the number of people being served and a number of people who are coming into, and I know, Sarah, y'all do a lot of school groups. I mean, that's one example that I can think of where, if we're looking and saying how many people came to your site and it's dramatically down, even if they've been opened, we wouldn't want them to be penalized because of that. Or if capacity is reduced, I mean, even though we're in stage 3, I don't really think we're in stage 3. I think we're really in like stage 2.75. There's still a limitation on how many people can be in some of our sites, and if they can, and how many people can be there, and whatnot. And I think we just don't want to hold people. I think we want to hold these organizations harmless, because also, if I'm thinking about some of these folks, a lot more is digital. It may not have as much pool. I mean, there's all kinds of things, but I think, Sarah, your perspective would be great as a contract partner about, I don't know if y'all would use this kind of thing, but you have a good pulse on a lot of our historical sites now, since I think you have MSAs with 2 of the 3 of them.
And I'm happy to share from my perspective. The visitor center is open Wednesday through Saturday. So of the 7 days a week that we were traditionally open, we're now open 4 of those 7 days. And we're seeing about 25% of the people that would otherwise be coming in under normal circumstances, about 25% visitation. So in terms of the data, that's what we're seeing. We won't, like Matt said, we won't be able to have our school programs in the same way, obviously, that we would have, and we would have been, traditionally. And that is included in our contract and scope of work. And same with guided tours. I mean, so much of the work that's done at the visitor center, and this is one of the reasons that we're only partially open and on this modified schedule, we depend so heavily on volunteers for assisting with our guided tours, helping make sure that the visitor center stays open. And the contract partners are in the same, position. So I think that, we really rely heavily on our volunteers who do happen to be older and aren't as able and willing to get out and do what they had been doing in the past, which is completely understandable. So, from what I heard you saying, Kim, and I think, it's more of a process that you were concerned about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, really wanting to know how things are going to change is what sounded like it was important to you. But I think we do have to be flexible because all of these organizations are so, so different in terms of what they have to do. So I hope that's helpful, Matt and team.
Any other questions or comments? I also think part of this is, I think everyone can probably reasonably assume we're probably going to be operating under some sort of modification through the rest of the fiscal year. I don't think, unless we have a vaccine or it just miraculously disappears, that we can't ask for the contract partners to have 100% of what we normally would expect of them.
Well, to be clear, I don't expect that at all, but I also know that the businesses who fund our account are, extremely have very low consumer support. And so I think big picture, I'm thinking, we're probably going to see over the year as a whole less income than we had anticipated, and I don't know how long that might go into start of 2021. And so I'm thinking we're all going to have to make adjustments, and I'm thinking a lot of these agencies were closed, and not operating. I don't know if they were paying staff. Some I don't believe even had staff. So to me, I would have thought it would have looked a little differently. I'm not arguing at all that there are differences and that we might have to look at each contract partner as a whole and sort of map this out. But I am saying I don't think we should, I'm not in favor of fully funding and then later saying, what did you do? Oh, okay, that's fine too.
Totally agree.
Shannon, did this amendment go through Bob and legal counsel? Okay, cool. Did Bob have any feedback on it?
No, and so I asked him if I could get a job with him as a legal assistant on the weekends. Because it was actually the first one where he hasn't had edits for me. I was like, oh, good job. But yeah, Bob's taken a look at it and he feels pretty good about it. And I think to Kim's point, I think the idea was for item 4 to address some of this and to have that conversation of what the organizations plan to do, and if they do need to make budget amendments, what those look like. I'm not sure, Kim, do you have any ideas or any things you would want added to feel better about getting the information about what the organizations are or aren't doing?
I mean, I would suggest that we actually get in front of it. I mean, we already know what has happened since July 1, and we also know we're still not completely reopened. And so it would seem like to me that we would be talking more about what is the adjustment for this fiscal year. But it sounds like, I mean, I don't know. you know, I would think we would do that contract by contract, because they're unable to fulfill the terms of the contract that we approved.
So you would suggest just maybe having them rewrite their scope of work instead of doing an addendum, and having them report on the first quarter in November and then report on how they're going to change second and third quarter?
Yeah, I would actually think that would be how we would look at it. Yes, that makes sense to me.
So in looking at 1 and 2, it says that the scope of work we're asking them for what their modifications are, right? Or if it's not clear enough, then is it sensible to have a submittal along with this signed document of here is how we're planning on modifying our scope of work based on the exigent situation?
Yeah, we could potentially do both. We could ask them to submit this addendum and also submit a modified scope of work for the rest of the fiscal year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then followed up by the quarterly report, which basically says, hey, it's been working, or, we've tweaked it. And because at the end of the day, this is meant to say we're all on the same team here. We're trying to attract visitors to town and keep some momentum going on this program. And it's incumbent on all of us to work together to get that done and to have a back and forth. And I'm for anything that supports that dialogue to encourage this effort to move forward.
Well, we're definitely living in a time where you're going to have to be super creative. You're not able to do what you have been doing in the past, but being creative and still linking it back to the purpose of this tax dollar. How is it supposed to be spent? What are we supposed to get out of this? And if it's nothing but we redirect all the money into a big media campaign to come to Hillsborough, then that may be what we have to do. And just we're all transitioning, each of us, as we try to survive this. And I think everybody should have equal responsibility in coming forward and saying, this is what we are looking at trying, for our new way of doing things.
So Shannon, if I remember correctly, this amendment is only if an organization needs it. Like, we don't need to formally approve anything right now.
They need it. We have to address the changes in what they were planning on doing in the spring versus what's actually happening now. So they all need some version of this. I think what Kim's kind of talking about is like a hybrid of like having them sign this and having them update those scopes of work for what they think the rest of the year is going to look like. Since we now know, I mean, we first started talking about this July, maybe. We still were like, well, we don't know how long this is going to last. I think Kim's right. I think you're right. I think that we can anticipate this lasting through the rest of the fiscal year. So I don't think it's unreasonable to ask the contract partners to update their scope of work to plan for this lasting through the rest of the fiscal year.
My question on that is, I agree, and I think that we could do this with and pair it with the scope of work. Sorry, I look off in the distance when I'm thinking, but one of the things that I'm not clear about necessarily is, do we need to do anything formally about what occurred? Basically, I guess, what was that? The third quarter?
We've already covered last fiscal year.
Okay, we already did.
We're talking about this fiscal year.
Someone, either you or someone else mentioned earlier in the calendar year, so I just wanted to be sure. So I think if we take this can be a template for the contract partners. If there is something that needs to be maybe modified slightly, and the scope of work, modifying the scope of work, and I think that would, because I do think that the contract partners, I know at least one contract partner probably did write theirs, assuming everything's hunky-dory and this goes away. I don't think they were necessarily taking into account COVID. being a long-term thing when we were doing this initially. So I think pairing the two together, the amendment and the amended scope of work, makes a lot of sense.
Couldn't you add another point, say after number 2, and say the board, keeps the right to ask for an updated scope of work at any point in the year? You could handle it that, that puts that expectation or possibility out there. I'm kind of comfortable with the way it reads, because point number 4 to me is kind of the ultimate backstop. Eventually, they have to come in and tell us what happened. But I understand Kim's point that hopefully you're getting good information in 1 and 2 about not only what the main plan is, but where things can go, kind of if things get more haywire. But maybe just formalizing, the possibility of a request for a change scope of work. Maybe that would help. I don't know.
I think that would, Barney. Thank you for that suggestion. Any other discussion on this topic?
Does anyone want to try and form a motion from the 3 things we have? I think Barney has an addition. Kim would like updated scopes of work, and then approval of the addendum.
I think number 3 is out. That's my personal. I don't think you should approve the addendum. I think you should listen to Barney and Kim and at least consider adding or re-examining or something. That's my humble take. But you don't have to listen.
What was the third thing? Scope of work, the amendment, and what else? What was the third one?
Make the amendment to the addendum, which is confusing. Request an updated scope of work at the next tourism meeting, and then go ahead and approve the addendum so we can start getting this moving forward, because we're already into second quarter.
Are you editing the addendum with this?
With this motion, yes. And requesting a new scope of work.
Yeah, I heard that part. I was just wasn't sure about the amendment and the voting approval. Does Barry have any thoughts on this?
And,
okay.
And Shannon, when you say addendum, do you mean the force majeure addendum, or?
We're not talking about that yet.
Okay, when you said addendum, I'm like, maybe I need to go back and
the amendment to the original contract.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have to vote on the amendment to the contract. We can push that to the next meeting. I just thought it would be easier to go ahead and get that ball rolling and get the new scopes of work and everything for the next meeting.
So to me, I think what you've done, the work that's been put in thus far, is probably a good piece of paper to go along with the board is formally requesting an updated scope of work from your organization. As is allowed per the contract. So all right, well then does that sound like what you're saying, Shannon?
Yeah, so we just need a motion.
All right, I'll move that you will update the, go ahead and phrase that for us again. And
take the amendment. To add Barry's suggestion that the tourism board reserves the right to ask for an updated scope of work. And then formally go ahead and put in a request to the contract partners to update their scopes of work. And then approve the amendment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Barney.
All right, it's been moved and said Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Hopefully our contract partners don't feel like, oh, I'm sure they won't, but it'll be, I think I know a few of them are at least expecting some changes here. Force majeure, take it away, Shannon.
So one of the other suggestions was to build in some language to the contract so that we have it for if our contract, something does happen like this again, riots, acts of God, terrorism. I threw a bunch of stuff in here to try and cover everything. And this is a recommendation to build this language into the contract for FY22. So for next fiscal year, this will already be built in. And basically just what is the process and what does the tourism board expect from the contract partner in the event that they're going to be closed for more than 10 days.
All right, any discussion?
Most contracts have force majeure language, and I think that would help a lot for us to have that consistent language. And if it doesn't already say that in there, reference back to our contract amendment that we just passed, so that it's tied together. So if we have the force majeure language in there, it then ties back and segues into the organizations or the grant recipients know they have to do the modification and submit the amendment.
Barney, did you have, I saw you went unmuted.
Yeah, Shannon, I hate to be that guy, but fourth line up from the bottom, the "it's" shouldn't have a apostrophe.
It's fine to be that guy. I like the grammar fully.
Yeah. I also noticed ghosts aren't mentioned, but maybe we're leaving supernatural things out of this. That's fine.
Has the attorney looked at this as well and approved?
He has not reviewed this one. No, this is just standard. I pulled from another contract, so I assume it's fine, but I will have him review it before I add it to our contract.
Yeah, if we're
Maybe
going
he'll
to do
suggest
it.
ghosts.
Good.
And Shannon, I assume we need an amendment, or not an amendment, a motion on this one as well.
Yeah, and it can be general, just that you would like to see a force majeure clause in the contract, something to this effect is fine.
And would this amend previous contracts as well, or is this just moving forward?
Moving forward.
Well, if that's the case, I would certainly entertain a motion that we'd like to see these in contracts moving forward.
So moved.
It's been moved by Kathleen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Barney. All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And now, Shannon, I believe.
So the next item is Barry. You're in the spotlight. Barry was going back and forth about whether he would want to serve another term. His term expires at the end of this month. So I think we need to hear from Barry about whether he'd like to be reappointed or if he would like us to do some outreach to fill his seat.
Well, I enjoyed being part of it. It's just a matter of time, obviously. I'm spending a lot of time in Graham right now. And, it's in the middle of a pandemic and other things. So I'm kind of torn. I'd be willing to stay on, but I may be a little light on time for the next several months anyway, so. I can go either way, but it might be better if there's someone interested to step in. That would be fine with me.
No.
Well, Barry,
he doesn't get to stay.
I don't want to see you go, but of course, make the best decision for you, and your business and the great frozen custard that you make, and hopefully you have better business environment in Graham here soon. Too bad those folks aren't coming in and getting you some frozen custard. Shannon, can you remind me specifically when is Barry's term up?
I believe it's the 22nd.
Of this month?
Yes.
So
Is Barry handling he's got a restaurateur seat, right?
Yes.
And we have one at-large seat open.
We have one at-large seat, and we actually have a restaurant seat open that I have to fill for a while.
Maybe two.
Yeah, I thought that was the case.
So no, Barry, no one's clamoring for your seat, even though this is a great board and we do a lot of good work and it's fun.
Yeah, I'd love to be part of it. I just don't want to not pull my weight. You know what I mean?
Barry, these things come in waves. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right. Yeah, if we're short-staffed, obviously I'll do what I can. But I hate to be wishy-washy. It's just that it's just a time thing.
Okay, Barry, so are we reappointing you?
That's fine.
Whew, thank you. I was going to ask that same question.
I need an answer.
Yes.
Of course,
All right,
I move that we recommend to the town board to reappoint Barry to another term.
I'd like to second.
Second. Yeah, good, Kathleen.
All right. Any discussion, any debate? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and we'll send that to the board.
Yay.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
guys.
taking one for the
Thanks for
team,
patience.
Barry.
Thank you.
And now Colonial Inn cost share. Shannon, if you will do the presentation, I will admit I need to run to the little person's room, but I'm going to turn this over to Kim in that interim.
Thanks, Matt.
Surprise. Okay, so the Colonial Inn, I'm going to share my screen.
Coming, what are you doing? What? What'd you decide?
I don't want him to come here.
So I'm driving you?
If you can.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm just having struggles. Okay. The Colonial Inn has an interesting situation in that their front porch, which was built many, many, many moons ago, actually extends into the public right-of-way where the sidewalk would normally be. It was built this way a long time ago. Probably didn't have people from DOT, making you tear down stuff like that back in the day. So basically they have an ADA accessibility problem at both points on either side of this porch. If you've been out there recently, both of these ramps down to the road are very steep. The one on this side is so steep you can see it's actually someone's driveway, and you can see scrapes from the car. So basically, if you are a person that has any type of accessibility problems and you are coming down King Street on the Colonial Inn side and you get here, there's really nowhere for you to go, which is a real problem. The town's been spending a lot of time and energy over the last few years. Trenton Street sidewalks is a good example of trying to get our sidewalks and our paths accessible so that we, everybody can enjoy, whether you're in a wheelchair, whether you have a walker, if you're pushing a stroller, so that you don't end up just kind of stuck in points like this. As part of their approval, let's see if I can show. As part of their approval for the Colonial Inn, the developer is required to build this ADA accessible path around the front porch. And basically what will happen is they'll have to come out from either side of the actual structure and regrade and tie into the existing sidewalk. And then there will be a slight ramp down to a wide path where the parking currently is in front of that covered porch. And so you'll be able to get around the building. You'll also be able to, as a person under ADA, be able to access the Colonial Inn. Right now, unless you're coming from the other side, you couldn't get around it to actually get into the building. Their ADA accessible door is on the other side of this porch. So they have submitted a letter. They did meet with the town board on Monday night. So that's why my apologies, but you didn't get this packet, this items in your packet until today, because they did have to write that request letter. They put in a request to the town board to basically help fund this project. It's about a $35,000 project. They're at the end. They've already put a lot of money in. Obviously with the pandemic, they're a bit overspent. And so the town board agreed to fund $10,000 and suggested to them that they do have the option to ask both Tourism Board and the Tourism Development Authority to also throw in. This is a public improvement, but it's done by a private developer. So the developer will build this sidewalk, but it does not belong to the developer. It will then belong to the town. And so the town will be required to do the maintenance and stuff after it's constructed. All the plans have been approved and it's basically ready to get built. That's why the DOT information is here. Let me pull up. The developer is asking the town board committed $10,000. Sorry, I'm reading the letter, making sure I'm not wrong. And so the Colonial Inn developers are also asking for the tourism board to commit $10,000, and they are asking for the TDA to commit $10,000. The TDA is meeting later this month to decide that on their portion. And I think
so
I covered.
Shannon, oh, I'm sorry. Who?
No, go ahead. That's all I am.
I was just going to ask, it's so hard for the Tourism Development Authority to find projects that are directly hotel related. And so I was wondering about, you know, the split and whether it made sense to let the TDA do a heavier fund since we're already concerned about meeting our contractual obligations.
That's totally up to the TDA.
Well, being on both boards for the time being, I think that I'm totally against this Colonial Inn thing up front. We've all built buildings, we've all had curveballs thrown at us, and we all had to pay for it. So I'm against it. But Kim's idea was actually a compromise. I don't think the tourism board needs to pay for any part of this. We're already tight. She's right. The TDA has extra funds. It's for this kind of hotel kind of thing. So in my opinion, that is something I don't think the tourism board should do anything. And that's, y'all can, I mean, that's just what I think.
I will say that it is true that once the Colonial Inn is up and running, there will be some, you know, revenue that's directed back to the tourism board. So down the road, the tourism board will, you know, will benefit from the improvement in getting Colonial Inn up and running. And I certainly do not want Colonial Inn not to be able to finish this project and get up and running. But I just think that in general, TDA has a lot more of this type of funding available than tourism board does. Is there anybody else that wants to comment on this?
Well, and I also wanted to mention that the developer's representative, Elise Tyler, is here too. If anybody has any questions they would like to direct to her. And Elise, I just kind of briefed them on the ask, and I'm not sure if you want to add anything to that.
I think you did a beautiful job.
My only question is to Mark. Mark, if this came before the TDA to fully fund the remaining of the cost share, that is, you get what I'm trying to ask. Is that something you're amenable to? Did Mark leave us?
I'm here.
Oh, okay, there you
Can
are.
you rephrase the question? Are you asking Mark if he thinks the TDA would pay 20,000?
Who's asking what?
Matt's asking. So the town board gave 10,000. The original ask was 35 last week. Did that change much, Shannon, between last week and this week? Are they still asking for 35?
No, the letters that we received asked for 10 from tourism board and 10 from TDA to match what was given from the town board.
Sorry, I will admit I was kind of stuck doing my day job this morning or today, and I didn't get to read the letters in detail. So Mark, are you okay with the TDA paying 20,000 for this cost share?
If you are going to, sorry, Elise, if you're going to be held hostage and give them the money, yes, I'd rather see the TDA pay it than tourism board. I don't understand why. I really do not understand why they expect the town to pay for it. I had an access ramp problem right at the very end. It cost me $5,000. They've got a lot more than my little $5,000. I mean, it comes with the construction. Their pockets are deeper than the tourism board. I think they should pay it. Sorry, that's how.
Well, and I'm going to be perfectly honest. I was on the town board last week thinking that the town board should pay for all of it. So, my viewpoint is this. I understand why tax dollars need to be spent. This building was constructed before the idea of public right-of-way existed. This is part of the sidewalk network of Hillsborough. It's an unusual situation where part of it, either part of a private structure is on public land or public right-of-way, or a public right-of-way is on private land, whichever way you want to think about it. I much rather would have seen this come out of our general fund, but it is what it is, as a certain person would say.
Matt, can I interject? I agree with you. When I was looking at it, I mean, this is an extension of our public sidewalk system, akin to the improvements in ADA construction that was going on Churton Street, and improving those access points for all users. And frankly, historically, the sidewalk has always gone, the public sidewalk has always gone underneath the Colonial Inn, and it was not an uncommon amenity for 19th century business owners to provide those amenities in order to attract people to the business. And so really, the town of Hillsborough has been using the Colonial Inn sidewalk for years, and now the town requires them to provide access so that this can be pretty much one of our only large special event facilities in downtown. And it's a huge tourism issue. This was at the center of our tourism program for so many years, and the loss has been felt so acutely. So at this point in time, if there's something more that the town can do, I say, so be it. Let's get this thing open.
And Shannon, this is, I'm trying to think back. I know it was just like a week ago at this probably very moment. But this is required for their CO, correct?
Yes. So this is a requirement, a development requirement. You see these a lot where developers are required to make public improvements. They're required to put in turn lanes, sidewalks, things like that. It's fairly common. In this case, the town really wants that ADA connection, but the developer also needs it in order to be able to meet building code and have an ADA accessible path into their building. So it's a win-win for both.
So just so I've got it straight, no sidewalk improvement, no CO, no tax revenue.
No opening, yeah.
So this is Barney, just a quick comment that, you know, there's clearly a tourism link here because I've been watching this. I have my own little, you know, attraction open for 3 years now, and I struggle to get likes. And the Colonial Inn sneezes and takes a photo, and 100 people and hundreds of people are liking that photo on the web. So they're clearly going to pull help for us. But at the same time, I have to say, isn't this exactly why we have a tourism development authority? It seems like the perfect avenue for them to take it up, maybe more than us.
For sure, whether it's heads and beds or butts and seats, that's the easiest way I can say that other one. I think this is we'll get a return on investment. But remind me again, Shannon, how much is in the general fund for the TDA?
A lot more than tourism board, right?
I just want to make sure.
Sorry. So the fund balance for the TDA, which is basically like their savings account, or basically any unused funds from the fiscal year rolls into the fund balance for the TDA, and the town's finance director would caution me to tell you that this is not the audited number, that this is our working number. The audit will have the final number and when it comes out the end of this year. But the available fund balance for the TDA is $172,586, which is about 182% of its annual operating expenses. The TDA's revenues are usually somewhere around $70,000. So that's a fair amount of fund balance. The fund balance for the tourism board, our working number is $265,343,000. But that is only 75% of the annual operating budget for the tourism board.
So my recommendation to the board would be this is a motion to recommend to the TDA that it funds or allocates $20,000 to this project when they meet later this month.
I'll move that we respectfully ask our colleague entity, the TDA, to consider that funding in the amount of $20,000 toward this project.
Well, since 2 of the 3 votes are agreeing with it, there should be no problem. I mean, 2 of the votes are sitting right here.
Well, I'm being very delicate in that, Mark. That's why I recommended that, and I think that would potentially give the developer some ease of mind knowing.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to say it can be done, but just do it a different way.
So are you seconding the motion to make that recommendation?
Yes, and I will, unless something I do not foresee happens, I will support it next week.
All right. Any discussion, any further debate? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries, and we'll make sure that the TDA, I know this sounds silly, the TDA will receive the information. I think 2/3 of them have already received the information. Shannon, sorry, I'm now operating off my phone. My computer died. So what's the next agenda item? Is that the appointment?
Yeah, it's the appointment. I was just going to thank Elise for being here tonight, even though she didn't really need to do a whole lot. Thank you, Elise. And I'm just let her know that I'm moving her back out of the meeting.
Thank you all very much.
Okay. Yes, the next item, 6A, is the at-large appointment recommendation.
So you had 2, it's just hard to do via Zoom, and
on my cell phone, but the first candidate that I came in for was also Elise, but spelled differently. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was Elise Polly.
Okay. I thought that her connections into economic development, her background would really pair nicely on this board. So I think she could be a welcome addition.
My comment is I do like the fact that she doesn't live in the historic district, comes from a different part of town, a growing part of town. I think she'd be a good addition to our board.
I like the idea of someone really young, because she's going to be around for a lot of years, and so Hillsborough might get a lot out of her. Not that we wouldn't get a lot out of the other candidates, but like I said, I like the idea of someone young in particular.
I like both of them a lot. I loved her perspective and interest in aspects of our community that she can engage her children with. I adore Bill. He comes from a strong business background and knows everybody, and his contacts are so good, in his knowledge and just love of what all of Hillsborough has to offer. And I don't know, I think is maybe one of the only representatives of a person who lives in the historic district. I don't know if that's such an asset or not an asset, but I think just the perspective of what you bring and the knowledge of both, I would be thrilled with either. I think they're both really great, and I'm sad there's only one at large. Yeah. So.
I will say it's a difficult decision between the two that came tonight. 100%. I mean, I'm not sure if we. Eventually I'll have to weigh in at some point, but I don't know.
Do we have to vote tonight? Can we give it 1 month to think about it? I mean, I don't know if that's kosher or not. I'm just wondering.
You don't have to vote tonight, no, but you will have an additional vacant seat for another month. So it's up to you all.
I mean, does that matter?
An additional vacant seat that doesn't currently cost us a quorum, which is good, which was a problem before, I believe.
I mean, I thought they were both great.
Yeah. And there's not another seat we could slide either one of them into that's currently open, because neither one of them.
Neither one of them own a restaurant.
Well, Shannon, just quick question. What happened to that other young man who submitted an application? He was a filmmaker?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if he forgot or what happened there. I sent an email about 45 minutes, an hour before the meeting with the Zoom link and just a reminder. I had spoken with him a couple weeks ago and asked him to put it on his calendar. He's good. He does do film work, and I've met and talked to him before, and he actually did the splash screen. We had like a video that played in the background of the Visit Hillsborough website that he made for us using like B-roll footage for pretty good cost. So I'm not sure. I haven't heard.
He was also the director of the Carborough Film Festival too at one point, right?
What?
He was also the director of the Carborough Film Festival. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Just so we could hear from all three interested people. Let's delay a month. I don't think it's going to kill us to delay a month. Make sure the gentleman can come the next time, and if he can't, then we'll just go ahead and make a decision at our next meeting.
Good, Matt.
Okay, can I get a motion to table?
I make a motion to table.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Can
All
we,
those in
can
favor-
we also say that we will decide next time in case if he doesn't show up again, we will decide next time.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think that's
and
important.
I think, Shannon, if you just make that
Yeah.
clear to him as well.
Yes, I will reach out to him.
All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And now I do believe we're on to staff reports.
Yes. See if I can get this up. So we've got our gross numbers. We've got July in, which is the first month of our new fiscal year. So it was down by about $3,000, which was surprising. Again, every month this goes on, I expect it to be lower and lower. But you know, it's holding. And again, my finance director, and I think as Kathleen pointed out in the last meeting, I do these reports from the gross receipts and I do them in Excel. So finance doesn't check them. Thank you for catching that, Kathleen. My percentages were off in the last meeting. But so we're looking strong so far. You know, if you look at the FY19 numbers and the FY21 numbers, they're, you know, about the same, but you know, we never know what's going to happen with that, especially as we head into the colder months. I will say, as the economic development planner for the town, I have heard a lot of concerns from our bar and restaurant owners because their outdoor spaces are going to become unusable. It's getting really cold. And so people who were previously comfortable dining outdoors on patios and sidewalks are not as comfortable going inside to eat. So we may see some more declines as it gets colder. We've done a ton of marketing efforts. These are some things that I've been doing in addition to the marketing the Visitor Center is doing, in addition to the marketing that the Orange County Visitors Bureau is doing. Everyone's just marketing, trying to get people here to eat, spend money, making sure they know that we're doing business safely. We've had signs made up and put out. We've done banners. We did a video that we had a great response on, and Tommy's not here, but he was, I stole a picture of him from his Facebook with his mask on and put him in it. We also had a photographer go around and take some masked pictures in some of our retailers and our restaurants so that we would have that photography to use for our marketing. And we were able to boost this, and we reached over 5,000 people, which was great. The museum was able to reopen. The visitor center is reopened. Burwell School is reopened. Everyone's hours and availability are a little bit limited, but if you want to visit the Burwell School now, you can do that safely. We also had our merchants get together and do a fall sidewalk sale. I helped them with some promotions and with this flyer. I heard that it was very successful. So, you know, they may try to do something else like that in the spring. And then I've been working with the visitor center, and we've just basically been throwing half-page ads in everything, huh, Sarah? We're just going to spend up all the money and see if we need more at the end of the fiscal year. But right now, we're just really trying to get people here and, again, let them know that we're doing business. We're open for business, and we're doing business safely. So, and then the Orange County Visitors Bureau just last week released a really nice video that they had made with a lot of the elected officials from both Orange County, Chapel Hill, Carrboro, and Hillsborough. So we're going to reshare that on our social media after their buzz dies down to go ahead and hit our followers as well. So that's my staff report. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to mention, and I have that in the agenda noted, is that the grant project that this board funded for FY21, which was Art on the Hill, which was going to happen. I believe they were going to try and do that in July of 21. I think they've decided to just go ahead and push it back not this coming summer, but to next summer. So I still have to work out with them what that means, if they're still going to need those grant funds in this fiscal year at all. I assume not. But I just need to talk to Katie at the Arts Commission to see if she wants to request to roll those funds or if this board wants to reallocate. So we still have some work to do there, but they just made that announcement. So we kind of got to figure out what to do with those grant funds.
And we didn't do anything with plain art this year, right?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, great. Because I know that's like a weird virtual, not weird in a bad way, but like a more virtual thing this year. So
yeah, and the TDA was the board that was funding the plein air paint out, just because those artists.
I can't keep everything straight. Tourism something. It all blends. And it doesn't help. We have a cross section of membership too.
Right. No, that's my job. I'll keep everything straight. Any tourism board comments or updates from anybody else?
Anyone who's watching who's an applicant, we don't typically go this long. We're normally done an hour or less, but we had some good discussion, so I'm still pleased with it.
Sarah, do you want to tell them what we're doing, what we're up to?
I'll be glad to, Barney. So, you guys, the reason I'm not reporting tonight, I've moved to the quarterly contract partner reports. That's why you're not hearing from me. So, but I am excited. Barney is awesome, and we're super excited because we're going to be partnering on a spooky ghost walk, a virtual ghost walk on October 23rd and 25th. That's a Friday and a Saturday. And Barney's going to be doing his ghost tour. And this is in lieu of our Spirits of Hillsborough Halloween tours that we do annually. So we're, thinking about our conversations tonight, thinking about all the things we've talked about. How do we find creative ways to offer quality tourism programming to the community? And we've got, an awesome resource in Barney. So Barney is going to be leading a tour around town. And tickets are available on Eventbrite, and we've got information up on our website. I'll check all of that to make sure it's correct, but we'll be splitting proceeds between Barney and the Alliance. And it's just, it's one of the ways that we feel like we're able to just be creative and do things a little bit different around Halloween like we normally would. And, one of the things that I'll add to this, the museum is doing Okanichi Ghost Stories on that Thursday. We're doing the spooky tour with Barney on Friday and Sunday. And the Burwell School has their, it's a bingo for Burwell, and it's sort of a haunted theme, spooky event on the Saturday. So basically, this is an example of where these MSAs are really working. All of the organizations are coming together to put together a series of events that aren't happening on top of one another, but happening, sort of in sequence and together. But we're really excited, Barney. Looking forward to it. I hope I said everything I was supposed to do on that. I covered it.
No, that sounds great.
Awesome.
The formal name is the Haunted Hillsborough Stream and Scream.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. And I was just wondering, have you guys sold any tickets? Is Amy
I haven't checked
monitoring
recently.
that?
I gotta circle back.
Okay.
I'll sign up for the Haunted Hillsborough Scream Queens one day. Sorry, that was a little gay joke. But anyway, any other questions or updates from folks? All right. If there isn't one or any, I would certainly, and I apologize, I'm on my phone, so I don't think y'all want to see the whites of my eyes or up my nose. So I'm saving you the horror in that. No pun intended with Halloween. But if there's any, if there's no further questions, Barney, I knew you were at the beach. You just showed it off. So I'm not a fan of you right now.
Yeah, that's an update of sorts.
I was going to say, are you in Kennebunkport, but or Hyannisport? But I'm sure you're somewhere down at the Outer Banks or something. But all those in favor of adjourning, please signal by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and we are adjourned. I will see y'all next month.
Thank you all.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Be safe. Bye.